Hey, what's up guys, Guardian here, coming to you guys with a deck profile today on my Alfred/Blaster Premium deck for Cardfight Vanguard. So, I have been teasing this deck a little bit during the week, and we are here finally. We are going to profile it. But before I get into the deck, I do want to give a small notice here that you may have noticed this deck going around online quite a bit, and you may notice particular cards like this one called Tana, where it allows you to basically abuse Alfred Early and get multiple force markers. And also you may have seen the return of Barkle and Future Knight Lou also make a return, which is pretty cool, because I wasn't actually able to use these cards, because I didn't actually know what Vanguard was back in the original days of the card game. But the cool thing is that Barkle's back and we can now use it as a starter, but you may be wondering straight away, why isn't it in the deck? Quite simply because I didn't have them. So what I did was that I tried to experiment with the deck a bit here and try build it my own way. And you know what? I'm actually quite happy with how the deck turned out. It made a lot of sense, but will it stay this way? Probably not. But regardless, I was pretty happy with how the deck turned out, and I took it to my local tournament last weekend, and yeah, it came first place, and it was pretty nutty, to say the least. So, without further ado, we'll get stuck into the deck, and I'll show you guys what I run. So, as you guys are aware, we do play the 4 Alfred Early, of course, so that we can get those force markers on the go. But then this guy is my spice of the deck. So, this guy is called King's Adjutant Knight Galort, and he is awesome. So, what he does is that when you place him on the Vanguard circle, you can counterblast 2, and then you can Superior Ride an Alfred unit from your deck on the Vanguard circle as stand. So the thought I was having with him was that with this deck, I wanted to consistently ride Alfred all the time, and that was really important for the deck. So Galort was actually a nice way for me to have an alternative backup Alfred to ride, essentially, if I didn't see him already, you know, if I didn't draw him. So Galort actually worked out pretty well. You may be thinking that the 2 counterblast is way too expensive, but the way I designed this deck was that you can actually take damage, like a lot of damage in the early game, and then try preserve yourself for the late game, because you're going to be doing so many drive checks that you may see like a heal crop up at some point, and you're also going to be having your Lien Perfect guards online as well. So your defensive capabilities will be a lot higher in the late game once you get there, so you don't mind taking the extra damage in the early game, so that you can actually use things like the Galort to consistently ride into the Alfred early. So that's that. And of course you would like to use Alfred's early skill if you can, but there are times where you can't, just because of the way this deck's built. So that is those. So you're essentially running 7 Alfreds in the deck, kinda, but the other cool thing is that if you do use the Galort skill, he does move himself from the soul to the rearguard circle, and he has a rearguard skill which says if he hits a Vanguard, you get a countercharge one, which is pretty decent, because the only other way you can countercharge in this deck is through Barkle, but the problem with him is that once you get to grade 3, his countercharge effect doesn't work anymore, because you're not on you're on an Alfred Vanguard, not a Blaster Vanguard. So that's pretty important there. So he's nice. He's a nice alternative way to countercharge, but obviously it's not that reliant because it's on hit, and more than likely won't go through. But it's a thing, you know. It's a thing that you can take in the mind there. And then the last grade 3, as you saw, was 1 copy of Lou, and he actually cropped up quite a bit. Where there was a really cool game I had where I was using Wingle Brave as my starter, and what happened was that I got his effect off on the grade 2 ride and noticed that I didn't have a stride fodder set up. So I had the Alfred in my hand, but I didn't have a stride fodder for the actual stride. So then I thought, ooh, hold on a minute, I could just search out Lou. Bish bash bosh, you know what I mean? So yeah, he accidentally became more useful than I thought he was going to be. You know, I initially put him in here just to have a sort of mini chance to recycle Blaster Blade back into the deck, because I felt like that was necessary. But also he can just be used as stride fodder if need be. But then it twigged to me, well, I can search him, so that's even better, you know. So that's really cool. Now you could maybe run 2 of him by taking one of the Galorts out of the deck. That's fine. But I personally would like to stay at 7 Alfreds, if you know what I mean, just to keep that consistency level there. And then the 1 Lou is just a nice one-of that you can search with the Wingle Brave if you do need that stride fodder. So that's fine. So that's pretty cool there. Now, I am going to keep these guys out for a bit because I am going to be talking about Vanguard Brave quite a bit in this video. So do bear with me. So we'll keep them up there. So next we do have the grade 2s, which is pretty simple. We do have the 4 Blaster Blade, of course, from the V series. The 10k base is very nice. The skills, however, you're not going to use. I'm going to be honest, never used this skill once. I'd rather hold on to the Soul and the Counterblast for other things, but yeah, he's Blaster Blade. That's all you need. So yeah, your Blaster Blade basically just became a 10k instead of a 9k now, which is cool. But we do have his friend, Light and Dark Lou. So Light and Dark Lou, I kept him in at 4. I was initially going to run him at 3 because I felt like he just wasn't as important, but he kind of is, because he's a pseudo way of you getting Blaster Blade from your deck, and you really need to get to your Blaster Blades when you need them. Especially when you've got your Flogels on the field as well. So, and the cool thing is that Flogel works with the Lou anyway, so you can use Flogel to boost Lou, use his effect, get the Blaster Blade from your deck, and then potentially start going ham with the Blaster Blade attacks and the Force Markers and all that shenanigans. So that's pretty cool there. But yeah, I kept him in at 4 just for consistency purposes, okay? But the other cool thing is with Lou is that he's just a good attacker in general. Like 16k and 19ks with Flogel and Barkle is just insane. You know, there was a time where I had like 2 Force Markers on the field in a column, and then he was hitting like 39,000 columns, like just because of the way he works with Lou, and of course the Force Markers pumping him up really high. So he's just a good attacker as well. So even if you don't use him for the skill, you're still using him as a decent reguard attacker, which is pretty decent. So moving on with the grade 2s, we have 2 copies of Swordsman of Light Blaster Javelin Larousse. Now, what this card does is that when you call it to the reguard circle, you put 2 cards from your hand into the soul, okay? And then you get to call 2 high beasts from your deck to the reguard circle. So of course, hey, that allows you to get to your Flogels, because that's your main combo piece. You know, you want to stand those Blaster Blades back up, and you want a consistent way to get to those major combo pieces. You know, Lou to get the Lou to get the Blaster Blade, but also Flogel can be searched out through the Larousse. So that's pretty cool. But the other thing is that we have another high beast that we can go get, and not Barkle. I'm actually talking about Patgal. And what Patgal does is that when he's called to reguard, you can Soul Blast 2, which, by the way, you just put 2 cards in the soul from your hand. So you Soul Blast 2 and you get a counter charge 2. So you're basically getting a free counter charge of 2, which is pretty damn nice. And also you're getting the 2 units to replace those 2 cards in your hand anyway. So you didn't lose out on anything, and you've just got a way to get to your combo piece, and also a way to refresh your counter blasts as well, with that counter charge. So that's really awesome. And also the utility factor of Larousse as well is that it's a blaster unit as well. So you can potentially use this as a way to search with Vanguard Brave on the grade 2 ride, if you have no other choice but the rider, of course. Now, of course, the main ride would be Blaster Blade, because, you know, you want to call that back out with your Alfred. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I quite like Blaster Javelin Larousse. It actually put in some work getting those Flogels onto the board and, you know, getting that combo on the go, essentially. So really, really cool. But the cool thing is that, as well, these 6 cards here are ways of generating soul as well. So if you need that soul for things like, oh, I don't know, your Lien Perfect Guard, they can do that as well. So even though Patgal is a target that Larousse can search, you don't have to get the Patgal. You know, if your damage is pretty decent and you don't need the counter charges, just put the 2 cards in the soul, get some Flogels, and then you've just got 2 free soul, essentially. So, and you can use that for defensive things like the Lien Perfect Guard. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Larousse has been working out pretty well in testing with this deck, and I quite like it. And the last grade 2 is just 1 Spirit. And the reason for this purely is just to have another Blaster Blade name in the deck. Because having 5 Blaster Blades is better than 4, I heard. But it's mainly because of Alfred Holy Saver, because you want to make sure that he has a target to actually give Twin Drive, and your opponent's going to be going after those Blaster Blades whenever they can. So using them at the right time is very crucial, but also just having a good consistent amount of Blaster Blades is pretty useful, especially when it comes to Alfred Holy Saber. So do bear that in mind. And I suppose a cute thing that you can do is that you could use Alt Mile to bring up the spirit from your deck to use its skill, but I haven't done that yet, so, but, you know, you could if you want to. But yeah, Spiritus is there as basically a blaster name, 10k base. I mean, you can't stand him with Flogel, which is a shame, but he is a Blaster Blade unit, which means you can use the Alfred Holy Saber to give him Twin Drive at least, so that's pretty cool there. Then going into grade 1s, we have, of course, our 4 Blaster Barkle, because he is really damn good, especially with Lou in the deck, but also crucial because of Wingull Brave, because we need to make this deck as consistent as we can, getting this guy's effect off. And at the minute we have these 6 blaster targets here, and then, sorry, 4 and 3 is 7, I can't do math apparently. So 7 there, and then the 3 Barkle down here. That will give us 11 blaster names essentially to work with, which is really, really cool. But like I said, even though Barkle's countercharge isn't going to be applicable in the late game because you're going to be on the Alfred Vanguard, it's fine because he still allows your lose effect to trigger. And like I said, the application of the blaster name as well in the early game is still crucial for that Wingull Brave skill to go off. So he is still worth running in my opinion. And besides from that, he just becomes just a free booster essentially, you know, to slap him on the field and start boosting your columns up with numbers. You know, that's always a good way to go about it. And then we also have the 4 Stride Enablers, which I felt like 4 was a bit too many at first, but to be fair, it actually wasn't. In fact, it actually made the deck a lot more consistent with striding, because you got to bear in mind, if you do go into the Galot play, you are using 2 grade 3s up right there, so you got 3, 4, 5, 6 left, and that's if you're not going to use the Lou for the rearguard. So these substantially made the deck more consistent with striding, and it was actually a major, major help. So yeah, the stride fodders were definitely very useful. And then of course we've got the 4 Lien Perfect Guards, which were absolutely great. Like I said, you want to take early game damage. You don't mind it because you want to use things for the potential Galot ride in case you didn't get the Alfred. Maybe do some Lou rush plays as well, and also having that counterblast available for Alfred as well. So yeah, you don't mind taking the early game damage. So Lien protecting you in that late game state is pretty decent there as well. And of course, you do have the LaRousse and the Lus here that can generate soul for you with their skills. And of course, the final grade 1 is to Patgal, which of course just works with the LaRousse. I prefer running 2 of this just because damage checking one of them or riding one is just bad. Yeah, so I just like having the 2 there just in case something bad happens to the first. So it's always nice to have the option available there for the LaRousse play, if needed, essentially. So yeah, that is essentially the 3s, 2s, and 1s. So I shall move them to the side, just so we have a bit more space here to work with. So moving on into the triggers, which is actually where this deck kind of shines, is it's basically just the way the deck works. You just run 12 crits. You know, I'm not a fan of decks that play 12 crits, but you know, when you get multiple trigger checks and you have the 10k boost triggers from the V series, slapping them onto a Blaster Blade that's already on a force marker or 2 force markers or whatever, it's pretty satisfying when you manage to stand that thing up with Flogel once or twice. You know, it's pretty sickening. But yeah, this is essentially why this deck's a thing. It's because of these new triggers and the Floropald and Flogel. It's insane. It really is. So I can't really say much more than that. You know, you're playing a 12 crit deck, which automatically makes this deck pretty scary whenever the Vanguard attacks anyway. Because you're going to be very, very vulnerable to being just critted for game, which actually happened twice during last weekend. I remember one game where my Ganslot literally just attacked and they didn't guard it, and then I got like 2 crits out of it, and he already had a critical as well on him from his skill. So yeah, crazy things can happen, put it that way. So yeah, the triggers don't really need explaining, to be honest, so that's pretty self-explanatory there. But we do have the G-Zone left, so again, this is actually rather simple as well. 2 Ganslot, counter charges, additional crit, quad drive, what isn't there to like? Yeah, he's just crazy good. Like again, it's all got to do with the it's all this crazy stuff with the force markers, the G units, the triggers, like the Flogel, standing blaster blade. It's just, wow, it's pretty nutty. But yeah, 2 Gansel's pretty cool. There was actually a few games where I did actually go into the second one, so 2 was actually not a bad call. Of course, you have the 4 Holy Saver Alfred Holy Saver, whatever. Yeah, he was also really good. It's basically these two. These two are your MVP strides. But you do have some nice utility ones left over. You do have the Alt Mile, which I actually did use once to fetch out a Lu from my deck. Not to use its skill, but because I ran out of Blaster Blades, which really sucked. But the cool thing about that, though, was I thought, oh, I've got no Blaster Blades left. I've got no Blaster Blades left over. What do? Well, we just go to the basic strategy of attack all the things with the biggest things that I can. So, and that's what Alt Mile did. He just brought someone out from the deck, made it huge, and the force markers helped with that as well. Yeah, he was cool. He did come up once or twice. And then we had the nice utility of Holy Squire Dragon, just in case Link Joker cropped up, which, fortunately, it didn't. But, you know, it was just a just in case sort of thing, so I did like having him in the deck just in case, you know. So that's that. And then we have the G Guardians, which is, you know, pretty simple as well. Dismal to protect the Blaster Blade, of course. Make sure that he survives as long as you can, because they're going to be swinging at him as much as they can, trust me. Laser Guard Dragon is pretty pathetic, if I'm being honest, because the heal triggers are 20k shield, so it's like, But I suppose one thing is, if your opponent strides first, you could G-Guard with him, maybe, and then have a face-up card in the G-Zone for your Ganslot to get that critical. That could be a thing, but more times than often, you're just going to flip him up with the Maskel, because Maskel's okay. It's an extra 5k shield that you can get, so 25k instead of 20k. That could mean a bit of a difference. But one of the MVP G-Guards in the deck, which was Iseult, actually, she put in a lot of work, which was really, really cool. There was actually, I don't know how, but I was able to generate field just progressively over the games. And yeah, there was just, I think, like, every game I was able to use Iseult in some fashion that she got a good amount of shield. And the Counterblast wasn't too frustrating to use as well. So as long as you manage your Counterblast well enough, you should be fine. But yeah, the Iseult was actually really nice. Then we've got the 2 Merrin, of course. The Soul Blasts are fine as well, because you've got the LaRousse, which can generate you 2 Soul Blast. 2 Soul, sorry, that you can Soul Blast for things like Lien or Merrin, so you've got a choice there. And yeah, I mean, a change I would like to do to this deck, which hopefully you guys can maybe help me with, is I'd like to utilize some of the new grade 1s from the V-Series, because they have 10k shields. So using the Merrin with those cards means I can get a 30k shield G-Guardian, which is actually pretty cool. But yeah, I just couldn't fit it in, unfortunately, in the grade 1 lineup, but hopefully in some other builds I can, so we'll see what happens there. So I am definitely going to be doing more builds of this premium Alfred deck, because, you know, when you've got these things here, you might as well, you know what I mean? So, and obviously I've got my force markers, which aren't a part of the G-Zone, of course, but, you know, you've got your markers there for your Alfreds, and yeah, that's essentially the deck. So it's, I mean, I said it a lot, but it is straightforward, this deck. But when I was constructing this deck, it was so satisfying to get the ratios the way I wanted it to, and trying to think about, okay, is this necessary? Is that necessary? Like, thinking about all these ratios here was actually a bit of a headache, but it kind of made sense to me, and it actually worked out in the long run. So yeah, LaRousse was actually really cool. I really liked her in the deck. The Luz ended up being really good at 4. Glad I kept him at 4. And the Spirit came up a couple of times with the Twin Drive from Alfred Holy Saver. So, very, very nice. But if I was to give a tip with this deck, if you are looking to building Royal into Premium, don't go crazy with your Blaster Blades. Please. You will really understand how valuable those things are now. Because they're going to be swinging at Blaster Blade as much as they can, killing it as much as they can. Yeah, I'm honestly considering bumping Dismal up to 2 potentially, but we'll just have to see. But yeah, that is essentially the deck. It was basically this guy here. He was the one that actually made me think, maybe I can make an Alfred Premium deck using this guy. And it somewhat worked. I mean, I came first, so that must mean something. Or maybe I just crit sacked my way to first, I don't know. But I'd like to think a lot helped. You know what I mean? You know, I'd like to think that he helped. But yeah, that's essentially the deck, guys. So tell me, guys, what you think about it. You know, I'm really interested to see what your guys' feedback. Do you think this guy's actually, you know, somewhat viable, or if not, I hope you liked the spice, because I did. You know, he came through quite a few times as well, Galore. He actually came through in, I think, like 5 of my games. He helped me ride Alfred like really, really consistently and just got the deck going essentially. So yeah, it was pretty cool. So like I said, guys, tell me, guys, what you think about the deck in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback, and I am looking into probably doing a deck profile for my standard deck next week, probably. But I do want to make more versions of this deck as well, just because the deck building side of it was so satisfying. Like, Premium is a beast of its own, okay? We can all agree with that. Premium is its own beast, but the deck building side of it was really enjoyable. I will say that. It was really, really enjoyable building this deck. And I'm actually looking forward to building more variations of this deck with the new Royal stuff that I got in the mail. So, yeah, really excited to play Barkle again. This is going to be awesome. So, that's essentially all I've got, guys. So, like, I think I've said it 3 times now, but once again, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. So, like always, guys, take care, and have a nice day. See you later, guys. Bye.